To bare one's bottom is seen as the highest level of comedy amongst adolescent teenagers or a group of drunken men on a bucks night. But have you ever wondered where showing your bum, or mooning, as it's more commonly known, came from, and what is the purpose of this bizarre action? In this episode, we find out that to moon someone was not always seen as the height of comedy. In fact, it had quite the opposite reaction. It had the power to invoke a different emotion entirely. Today on His and Hers History, we have a crack at the history of mooning.
Correct.
Hello and welcome to His and Hers History. I'm your host Aaron and this is my co-host Stephanie.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How was your week?
My week was really good, thank
Yeah?
you. I was learning all about why showing your bum to someone is not necessarily the best course of action.
That was never just a known fact to you?
Well, I mean, it's funny, but I've found out that
You don't just go around showing your butt.
No,
to
obviously
people,
not,
do
but
you?
I mean, in the past it has a different context entirely to the way we know it today, and that's the point I'm getting at, that we're going to look at the evolution of mooning someone and where it's come from. But before I begin, if you're new to the podcast, I'll catch you up to speed. Each week, one of either myself or Steph bring a historical topic to the podcast, either a person, place, or an event, and we present said historical topic. The only catch is the host presenting knows all the facts, and the host listening knows nothing at all. So today I'm the master and Steph is the apprentice. By doing this...
I would say I'm definitely an apprentice to mooning. I've never had it
you've
done to
never
me,
mooned?
and I have never
Oh my
mooned.
God, you haven't lived. By doing this, we can have a light-hearted look at the past with genuine reactions, and anyone who's listening along can have a laugh with us as we dissect history and potentially ruin it. So your thoughts on mooning, Steph? Is it horrendous? Is it repulsive? Is it humorous? What's your thoughts?
I think it would have been the height of embarrassment for me in high school if that had ever happened to me. I heard stories, and they were horror stories.
If someone mooned you, that would have been like embarrassing for you, or
From memory, I think actually it might have happened once.
someone mooned you, a boy, I presume.
Yeah, but not me in particular. It was them on a bus as the bus was leaving. And
So you
it was
knew
quite
this person,
shocking.
or?
It was a high school person,
Okay, right.
but
And you're
I was
a
horrified.
child, a primary school student.
No, I was in high school too.
I was going to say, what a weird display of power.
Oh my.
That's sort of leaning into what's happening later on in the podcast.
Okay.
But I think of mooning. I mentioned it in the intro, bucks parties and things like that. I think of my drunken mates where I've been mooned many, many
Oh
times.
my.
But like a mooning to me, it's if you just pop your bum out, that's fine. But I've seen far too much of my mates,
Oh, yeah, I
like
can
their
imagine.
genitalia and stuff, because they're dropping their pants down to their ankles. That's a very aggressive mooning. I don't think that's being used in the correct way.
Our friends are definitely very different.
Yes. I think you'll find out later on. This is probably more of a male
Yeah.
sort of thing, but we'll find out a bit more about that. So, the first time I became aware of mooning in a historical sense was watching the Mel Gibson movie Braveheart. Have you seen that before?
Yes, and I've seen that scene.
Yeah, you've seen
Yes.
that scene. It's been ages since I've watched it, and I can't remember if it's actually a good movie or not. But that's the first time I saw it. So that's set in Scotland around the 13th century, and the Scottish warriors use the mooning as an insult to the invading forces, which are the British. And then I think they get shot in the bum by arrows and stuff like that. The British crack the sads and then shoot arrows at them. So that's when it dawned on me that mooning had a deeper significance in our history rather than just making someone laugh. So it sort of stood the test of time, and it's evolved quite a bit since its origins. So mooning and its origins, who was the first person to bare their soul and their ass to the world as a means of trying to communicate their intentions? Who thought it best to use their bum as the perfect way to sum up how they were feeling? Let's find out.
Well, I guess body language is what, like, how much percentage of your communication?
Yeah, but something you don't think about. But even like
a pretty
something,
strong message.
and this is what I was thinking about. Even something as simple as like putting your thumb up to someone, like that could have evolved over time drastically. Like we don't know the origins of that.
I do know I was looking at Shakespeare in high school, and I didn't know the significance of biting your thumb at someone was an insult.
Oh, back in the day.
Yeah, it's basically like putting your finger up to them.
Yeah. Whereas now it's sort of
Putting
seen
them
maybe
bed.
sensual, I guess.
Oh,
Someone's
biting
biting
your thumb.
your
Is
Don't
that
bite your thumb at me,
sexy?
Steph. Please don't do that. I'm trying to concentrate. Part 1, the first recorded mooning. So before I delve into this, how long ago do you think of the first recorded mooning was, Steph, if you're going to have a guess?
Oh my gosh, my hopes are like ancient times, but I think I'm reaching a bit for that. I'd love to see like a hieroglyphic.
Is that how you say it?
No, it's not how you say it.
I'm just going to quickly type that in. I know what you're saying. Something on a wall, a cave or something like that or something. It's not quite that old, but it is still quite old. So the first recorded mooning took place in the 1st century ACD, in 66 ACD to be precise. So for those of you who are like... ACD? What is it?
ACE. Isn't it ACE?
I think it's ACE. I don't know. Do you want to quickly
We
look that up?
need to look this up.
You look that up.
Aaron. So it turns out we are both not qualified for this role.
This is post-edit. We've just paused the recording for a minute there. So
I was the closest one.
You were. So it's not ACD. I don't know where I got that from. And it's not...
ACE. So I was thinking after Common Era, but we are in the Common Era. Yeah.
So it's CE, which stands for Common Era. So my next sentence actually alludes to the fact. So I was going to say, for those of you who are like me and had no idea how long ago that is, I'll save you the same fate as me of having to look that up on Google. Apparently, when I looked it up on Google, I didn't look close enough because it's actually CE, not ACD. Maybe I was thinking of ACDC or something out of song in my head. I'm not sure. I think
you were. So you're definitely. This is like after the calendar.
Yes. So it's not. It's 66
BC.
No, it's 66 CE.
Yeah, okay.
So,
okay.
Which, if you're like me and you had to look that up, it's roughly 2,000 years ago, just shy of being 2,000 years old. So quite a long time ago. So the first record was made by a famous Romano-Jewish scholar, Flavius Josephus, sick name, who was a Jewish priest, a scholar, and a historian who wrote valuable works on the Jewish revolt in 66 CE to 70 CE, not ACD.
You don't have to say
CE. Well, I'm just going to say it now so it sticks in my head. And he also did some works on earlier Jewish history. He was very prominent around this time for documenting the goings-on of the Romans and the Jewish, which was, as we're about to find out, is a bit of a bumpy period for the two of them. So Flavius noted in one of his works, The War of the Jews, that he witnessed a Roman soldier bear his ass to a large group of Jewish pilgrims that had gathered to celebrate Passover. Do you know what Passover is?
I do know what Passover
is.
Yes.
Would you like to inform us?
It is I don't know if it's a celebration or commemoration of when the first Passover happened in Egypt.
That's, pretty much right. So Passover is a celebration commemorating the Hebrews' liberation from slavery in Egypt, which is seen as a very important part of their history. Flavius stated, and I quote, "One of the soldiers, raising his robe, stooped in an indecent attitude so as to turn his backside to the Jews and made a noise in keeping with his posture." What do you think that might mean?
A noise in keeping with his posture.
What do you think he might have done?
Like a farty noise, I'm guessing.
He farted on them. A Roman soldier farted on or in the direction of some Jewish people.
So much respect.
Yeah, so putting in layman's terms, this Roman soldier was looking down on a group of Jewish people who was celebrating a very important historical event that is of great significance to their people, and thought his best course of action was to pull down his robe and fart in their general direction.
Well, I guess people really haven't changed, have
they?
No,
they haven't. So technically it's not a mooning by the strict definition, but it still has the basic elements of a solid mooning.
That. Yeah, I would count that.
But I guess he wasn't mooning as in like I'm showing my bottom to them. His intention was to fart on them, which is disrespectful, but it still is showing his bum, so it's technically mooning. Side note number 1. I wonder if this is where they got the idea for the line in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Have you seen that movie? Mm-hmm. I've watched it many of times. There's a scene where King Arthur's looking up at some French soldiers and they're looking down on him from their castle and they start insulting him. And one of them says, "I fart in your general direction." And I reckon they probably stole that because maybe they knew about it.
Possibly.
Yeah, because it's pretty much exactly what happened. So how would you react in this situation, Steph?
Oh, it would be
You're
horrifying.
One of the Jewish people celebrating this significant event, and someone standing on a hill just farts on you or at you. What would you do?
Well, what would you do?
What would I do? I'd be very upset.
I guess that's how you would react.
Well, we'll see how they react in a bit. So it's not the best look when you're a part of an oppressed people and your oppressor is standing above you and is farting down on you. That's probably the most disrespectful thing you could do to someone, even more so when they're celebrating a cultural event of such significance. The fallout from this Roman soldier's mooning was quite significant. Flavius noted that as a result of his actions, he incited a ferocious riot that killed, and I quote, upwards of 30,000 people.
What?
Although the records vary, some say around 10,000. However, that doesn't change the fact that this is quite the death toll as a result of someone farting at a group of people.
So, where were the deaths occurring? Was it the Jewish or was it?
It didn't actually say. I could look further into that, I suppose, but I'm assuming it was probably mostly the Jewish people that were dying because the Romans were sort of like enslaving them and oppressing them. And
Yes.
So I don't blame the Jewish people for fighting back. That would have been the height of disrespect. Now, I hope I get this right. I've written this down several times. So looking at this from the Jewish perspective, you are celebrating a time where you got your freedom back from a group of people that had enslaved and oppressed you, only to have the current group of people who have enslaved and oppressed you make fun of you while celebrating your freedom from a past oppressor by farting at you. Did I get that right?
That sounds very disrespectful.
But did I get that right? That sounds about right, doesn't it? Yeah.
I don't know if the Romans were enslaving
but they were
them
definitely
the same way the
oppressing
Egyptians
them.
were, but
Definitely oppressing them, which is what's worse. I mean, they're pretty much the same.
Probably slavery is a little bit worse on the scale.
Well,
but
yeah, that's true. Regardless, this Roman soldier farted at them, which is really disrespectful. So I probably would have rioted too, if I'm honest. There's only so much you can take.
And it was like, it wasn't just a fart, it was like a bare bottom fart.
Yeah, that's right. Which is
way
not
worse.
not a fart through a robe.
Particles could fly at you.
Yeah. Could get pink eye or something.
Oh my
horrible
God.
like that. Yeah, so that's really kicking a man while he's down, basically. So the first recorded mooning technically wasn't a mooning in the traditional sense, or the way that we know it today. However, the Roman soldier did bare his bottom, albeit with a fart, but it was a mooning nonetheless. So, first recorded mooning. We can also see that the use of mooning was meant as a means of insulting a group of people. It was used as a taunt, if you will, to make fun of people who were already down on their luck. So its origins are a little darker than what most people might think. It's not as funny, I guess. I guess the Roman person thought it was funny, but it was used as, I don't know, more of a taunt than anything. So, part 2, evolution of mooning. Mooning was used as a method of taunting and exerting power over one's foe that we just read about. However, there is evidence through art in the Middle Ages that it was common amongst the masses and it was used for a variety of different purposes. So if you watch our podcast on YouTube, you'll get a glimpse of some of these mooning pieces of art, which I can assure you as bizarre. They sound and look as bizarre as you might think.
Now, I haven't seen them yet, but are they paintings or like tapestries? Because I know a lot of medieval art is.
They're sort of like just drawings and stuff like that. But the people mooning are in really odd positions.
But imagine like spending time on that.
Do you mean like you were assigned the job of drawing and or making a piece of art on someone mooning? Yeah, it's quite odd.
Yeah.
Would have been very strange. So another recorded incident occurred around the year 1207 during the Fourth Crusade, so quite a bit later. The Crusades were a military expedition by the Western Europeans, Christians, to stop the spread of Islam and to take back the Holy Land. I actually had to look that up because
Aaron.
No, I actually didn't know, like, what were the Crusades? Specifically, what were they about?
Your schooling failed you.
We didn't study that. We studied Australian history. So the Western Europeans tried to take Constantinople and failed miserably in their endeavours. And so after being defeated, returned to their ships and retreated. The Byzantines, I think I'm saying that.
Byzantines?
Yeah, I'm not sure how.
Byzantines,
sure. Who were a part of the Roman Empire, were said to be so happy with their victory that they, quote, showed their bare buttocks in derision of their fleeing foes.
Right, so this is more a celebratory mooning.
Yeah, that's right. So here we can see the mooning as another taunt, but it's more of a weird victory dance to display dominance over a defeated foe. So it's not used in the same way.
It's not starting a war this time.
But it's not used in a way of like punching down, I guess. It's more like a victory celebration sort of thing, which is quite interesting.
I wonder what the logic is of that.
They're just so happy they just pulled their pants down and showed their bottoms, I guess. Probably not the first thing I'd think to do.
No.
A form of insult nonetheless. However, it was not only during the time of war and slavery that mooning found its use. Another recorded case or moon sighting, as I like to call them, occurred in the 13th century with the Italian nobleman, here we go, Alberico da Romano. Alberico da Romano. There we go.
Okay.
Alberico was a troubadour who is basically a really good poet. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so that's what a troubadour is. I had no idea. While on a hunt, the Italian nobleman became so upset with the fact that he had lost his favourite hunting falcon, and then he, I quote, dropped his trousers and exposed his rear to the Lord as a sign of abuse and revelling. Now we can see that mooning is being used to show displeasure at an upsetting situation. So it's evolving still. So
and to God as well. Is that what is happening?
No, it said to the Lord. Yeah, is that to? I interpreted that as
Is it God or is it actually a Lord of the land?
I interpreted it as like this poor Lord that's just sitting there and he's just like, cop that, and he's like, well, what have I done wrong? I'm not in charge of your falcon. But you might be right. Maybe he showed it towards the sky. That makes more sense. Yeah, that's making a lot more sense now.
Both are disrespectful, actually.
Yeah. So he's doing it towards God, so that's probably even more disrespectful. Side note number 2. For someone who is supposedly really good at using their words, because, I mean, he is a poet, he somehow couldn't find the words to describe how upset he was, so he flashed his ass to the sky just to show that he was upset at losing his falcon. That's a bit... Like, he mustn't have been the best poet. Surely he would have come up with like a poem on the spot, like, my falcon is away. My ass, I must say. I don't know. I'm not going to...
with my ass, I must say.
Yeah, with my ass, I must say. Or something like that. But no, he just showed his ass to the sky. But hey, maybe that was the first form of artistic interpretation. Because he was an artistic type of person. Maybe that was the evolution of it. That's where it started. Here on His and Hers History, we're breaking new ground. Now, where was I? So we can see that mooning is becoming multi-purpose. It's like any form of language, it's evolving. So it's not just one use, it has several uses, as we can see. So mooning found its way into popular literature with The Miller's Tale by an author, Geoffrey Chaucer, or Chaucer, I'm not sure how to say that again. This is becoming a running theme with me and pronouncing names and of people and or places. So this Geoffrey fellow, as a part of his late 14th century collection, the Canterbury Tales. In this interesting tale, the main characters of the book, Alison and Nicholas, convince another character, Absalom, to kiss their bare asses. This mooning is topped off with a fart as an insult to injury, with the author writing Nicholas let fly a fart as great as if it had been a thunderclap, so that Absalom was almost blinded by the blast. So now we see it evolving again, and it's being used in its more familiar term for humour. So the author combined mooning with a kiss and a fart to provide a humorous situation. This author obviously had a twisted sense of humour for the time.
What time was this?
So this is late 14th century.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see, and it would carry on for a couple of hundred years. I'm just thinking the 17th century was probably an interesting time for humour.
Yeah, that's right.
But
I was surprised to learn that back then that they were writing books and they had things like that had someone kissing someone's bum and they were farting in their face, and it was like humorous, which is like
to some, yes.
Yeah, I mean that'd make some people laugh. I mean, if I was a kid, I'd laugh at that. Now, earlier I mentioned the movie Braveheart and how the Scots moon the English before battle. You remember that? Mm-hmm. Well, Mel Gibson and Hollywood must have taken some creative liberties with their interpretation of the conflict, because the University of York professor Nicola MacDonald actually refutes this, and according to the 13th century chronicles written by historian Peter Langtoft, it was actually the English that mooned the Scots before battle.
Oh.
So it was the other way around. So now we're seeing that the power of mooning has a large effect over people, and people are actually trying to change history simply to save face and not be at the end of a brutal mooning at the hands of a foe.
Well, I guess that sort of fits in more with how mooning's being used, because it's usually in history so far it's been used by the stronger person.
Yeah, that's right. So the English were actually trying to oppress the Scottish, so it's...
The people in power have been
It's a front-runner's tactic. But we can see it now being used as a brutal war tactic.
Brutal.
Yeah, it's brutal. Imagine that. you're like against all the odds, you're fighting this massive foe, and they
pasty white asses.
Yeah, and they just show
you.
their asses. You'd be like, oh my god.
Maybe it was more of a glaring tactic to blind their eyes out with all
or
that
maybe it was
pale
like
skin.
as a show of like arrogance or confidence, like we can show our asses to you, turn our backs to you, and be vulnerable, and we don't even care because like we're so powerful. Maybe. Part 3: a global phenomenon. At this stage, we have only had the act of mooning isolated to in and around Europe. However, it was far more widespread than that. In the late 1500s, mooning had made its way to the Americas. Around this time, an Italian explorer by the name of Giovanni da Verrazzano. I did a little bit better that time. Giovanni da Verrazzano.
Oh, the cringe is real.
These are difficult names, okay? He was on an expedition along the Atlantic coast of North America, so another Italian. He made contact with a local tribe of Native Americans known as the Abenaki tribe, which were found in and around the state of Maine and further into the middle of America. After making a trade of goods with the Abenaki people, he witnessed them, and I quote, showing their buttocks and laughing. So, side note number 3, it's not clear why they were doing this. We could interpret it that they were just really happy with the trade, maybe. Which, yeah, I'm sort of thinking maybe not. Or maybe they were just like, we've got one over you. We've made like a really good trade and you've been left with nothing, so we're going to insult you. So it's interesting.
I think the fact that they were laughing as well.
Probably... Yeah, but I guess it's like, I suppose if you're in that situation, I assume the Italian person thinks that he's a superior person, as we know through history that Europeans tend to think that way when they were colonising or in a new land, that they were the superior people. So maybe they just thought they were crazy or something. But then again, you'd probably interpret this as, hey, they're mocking me here because they're laughing and showing their ass to me. A journalist by the name of Charles C. Mann, I had no trouble with that one, suggested in his acclaimed book 1491 that the reason that the tribe might have mooned their Italian friend was because they had been exposed to, pardon the pun, do you see what I did there? Exposed?
Oh, yes.
Pardon the pun. You're supposed to laugh there. I thought that would be super funny when I wrote that. Pardon the pun. They had been exposed to Europeans in the past that may have mooned them as a form of insult, which is a good theory. However, they might have just come up with the mooning themselves. It's not clear. It's not quite clear either way. But what was clear...
you don't have to have that modelled to you to understand.
No, that's right.
Funny.
But this journalist theorised that maybe there was other Europeans that had passed through because I suppose they did it and they assumed, again, they're Europeans, so they assumed they're superior and they invented everything.
Yeah.
But more than likely, the Native Americans come up with it themselves.
You would think so.
But it's clear. But what is clear is even by the 1500s, mooning was becoming a more popular or global phenomenon around the world. Jump to the 19th century and we find ourselves in the country of New Zealand, where the oral tradition tells of the Maori gesture of waka fo hane. I think that pronunciation's correct. This is a post-edit as well. I also stuffed up the pronunciation of that one as well, so we had to go back and do that. This act resulted in elders from the east coast of the country flipping up their skirts at an elder of another region. This was enacted by a woman elder, which is the first time today that we've spoken about women mooning. So through history, it's mostly been men or recorded men, but this gesture was specific to the Maori women. So they would do it to another woman elder from another tribe as a form of insult.
Oh, it was a form of insult as well.
So it was probably done before battle, maybe?
Maybe.
Or something like that.
I was almost I don't know why, but I thought it'd be a form of respect somehow.
Yeah.
It seems silly now, you've told me.
No, but I mean, it just depends how like each culture interprets it. You could be right. It could be like, a sign of like saying hello, but it was definitely it was like definitely a war thing. So yeah, it was basically meant to insult them or something. But that's the first time that we've seen it recorded as a female thing. So even today, now if we think about now, it's mostly males that do it. You don't see females mooning people. I'm sure they do, but it's mostly a male thing. And it's interesting that through history it was a male thing as well.
And female in some cultures.
Yeah. So it said that this act was, and I quote, a deliberate act of exposure that conveyed the utmost form of insult. So an insulting manner again. By the 19th century, mooning had become a worldwide phenomenon. So much so that by the 1960s, the Oxford English Dictionary states that to moon, or the act of mooning, derives from the student slang in America from the 1960s. However, history states that the term to moon or moons dates back as far as the 18th century. The Oxford English Dictionary states that in 1756, an author referred to one man's bum, stating, "His moon shall never be covered by me or buck." I've no clue what that means, but he referred to his bum as being a moon. And there are other mentions of authors using this term of mooning in their books. So it's incredibly widespread and well used, even that far back. So it's evolved quite a lot over its lifespan. So mooning's other uses, these are things that I couldn't fit in or thought we'd run out of time doing. So if you look in the references, if anyone's interested, you can read the article that I've got a lot of this information from. It talks a little bit more in depth about this. But mooning's other uses are as a political statement. So you might have seen people in the past mooning as a form of protest towards, I don't know, a political party or a certain person. And of course, humour. So it's been used in movies and literature and TV shows and all sorts of things like that. Side note number 4. However, let's not forget that although we're having a lighthearted look at bearing your ass to someone, let's not forget that exposing yourself, especially to people you don't know, is not a good idea and is actually a crime in most places. So I hope no one that's listening to this is going to go to work tomorrow and start mooning their employees while screaming, "I'm mooning you because I hold a position of power over you, and this is my way of displaying dominance over you," just like the Romans did to the Jewish people in 66. Was it CE? So please don't do that. You will go to jail for indecent exposure and or sexual assault. We're having a funny look at mooning, but please don't just think you can do it at any time, because a lot of people might actually find that offensive, and yeah, you could be punished for it.
It's almost sort of sad. It will never become a thing anymore. I can't imagine modern battlefields with much mooning going on.
Yeah, no, that's when someone can take you out from several kilometres away with the click of a button. I mean, showing your bum probably isn't going to have the desired effect.
No.
It's probably going to help them because you're standing still. I don't know. Part 4, psychology of mooning and conclusion. Psychologists have come to the conclusion that the reason we find mooning so funny today is because at the end of the day, it's relatively harmless and it can't actually do any real damage. Although we have certainly found out today that that's not the case. It can cause a whole range of emotions at both ends of the scale, from laughter to murderous rage. What's your thoughts on mooning, Steph?
I actually found it so interesting, especially with the bit about the Maori mooning. It's sort of like, what is it called? It's like convergent evolution.
What's that?
Well, it's where two things that are completely separate happen at different ends of the globe, but are happening at the same time. So birds may evolve something, but they're not actually related.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
Well, so humans evolved mooning.
Yeah, like without necessarily being exposed to it. Like
yeah.
It mentioned how the Native Americans might have been exposed to it, but they probably just developed it themselves. And I've written down here that it's like any language or physical gesture. It evolves over time. So something that we use today, like mooning, has a completely different history and past. And it makes me think about other parts of our language or maybe gestures that we do that have a darker history or a completely different history to what we know, like flipping the bird to someone, putting your finger up to them. Where did that come from? Maybe we could look at that in another episode.
Very true.
So wrap up. Time to give this episode the arse. So I hope today's episode of His and Hers History, told in the His and Hers History way, was fun for you, Steph. Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it.
I'm glad.
We need to get a pronunciation dictionary.
I just, I read through my scripts, and I think you're probably the same, but it gets to the moment when I get to the word, and my brain just goes, that's an unfamiliar word. Completely muck it up, and, just lose control of your speech. If you would like to listen to more of our episodes of our podcast, you can find us at our website, hisandhershistory.podbean.com. On the Podbean app, we're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music /Audible. We also have the YouTube channel that I mentioned earlier, where you'll get a little bit more of a visual representation of what's happening in the podcast. And again, we take the mickey a bit there, so it's nothing serious. So feel free to give us a like, comment, and follow on whatever platform suits you. Leave any feedback or any ideas that you have for us, because we'd love to know what people like or what they think or how we can improve. Do not forget to share with your friends, family, work colleagues. Just don't moon them and say that you learn it from this podcast, because that would have the opposite effect of people not wanting to listen to our podcast. But if you do this, we can build our community here, and we can continue to provide you with some entertaining looks back at a variety of historical topics. So I think that's us done today.
Oh, good.
Yeah. One last thing that I just need to show you, Steph.
Oh, no.
I'm just going to... No, I'm not going to do it. I haven't
God.
asked for your consent. I was going to moon you, but I think we'll end it there.
Please do. Goodbye.
Catch ya.